In the annals of medical history, there are figures whose name evoke intrigue, fascination, and even controversy. Today, we delve into the life and legacy of one such infamous medical practitioner whose work forever altered the course of medicine and ethics. Join us on a journey through time as we explore the dark and enigmatic story of a medical pioneer whose methods, though revolutionary, left an indelible mark on the world of healthcare. Entering the list is Michael Swango, a doctor hailing from New York. His actions were not just shocking, but they reach as even more chilling magnitude when you consider the number of people he affected. Swango's heinous acts involved the deliberate poisoning of his patients. What's truly unsettling is that he claimed the lives of around 60 patients by introducing poison into their medication. What's even more disturbing is that his motivation appeared to lack any rational basis. He seemed to commit these acts due to his own deranged disposition. His apprehension came about through an utterly unconventional turn of events. Rather than the work of detectives or law enforcement, Swango was exposed when someone stumbled upon a disturbing scrapbook he had created. This morbid collection contained newspaper clippings, notes, and photographs detailing the murders he had committed. It was as if he took pride in these gruesome deeds, a fact that sends shivers down the spine. Not confined just to his patients, Swango also turned to violence within the medical profession. He brutally beat a colleague to death. Despite his capture, Swango only confessed to 4 murders. Fortunately, his attempt to downplay the extent of his malevolence did not succeed, leading to a life sentence in prison. Currently incarcerated, he may even become eligible for parole in the coming 4 years. So in 4 years, the world will need to remain vigilant to ensure he does not regain his freedom and that he doesn't cross anyone's path as their doctor. This narrative is truly disconcerting, and it's no wonder that even before his capture, he had earned the ominous nickname Dr. Death. Due to the unexplained deaths of his patients, it begs the questions of why his colleagues failed to detect the sinister undercurrents in his actions. This story underscores how someone who would be trusted to save lives can become a wolf in sheep's clothing. Next on our list is Cecil B. Jacobson. While his actions may not be as heinous as some of the other individuals on the list, such murderers, they are undeniably revolting. Cecil was a fertility doctor who engaged in conduct that can only be described as abhorrent. He impregnated his patients with his own sperm without their knowledge or consent. However, that's not the extent of his transgressions. He was also involved in numerous instances of financial fraud, amassing hundreds of thousands of dollars through deceitful means. It's particularly unsettling given that doctors are already well compensated for their work. Cecil's deceit was eventually brought to light when some of his patients, who found themselves pregnant out of the blue, decided to speak out and tip off a local TV station. A news story was then broadcast, placing immense public pressure on Cecil to undergo a DNA test. This test confirmed that he was the biological father of 75 children, many of whom were born without their mothers having any knowledge of the true identity of the biological father. This revelation not only disrupted the lives of these mothers, but also cast a shadow over the lives of these children before they even had the chance to begin. Cecil Jacobson was found guilty of 52 counts of fraud, which he had enabled him to amass a significant sum of money. Shockingly, his punishment of these abhorrent actions amounted to just 5 years in jail and $100,000 fine. What's even more astonishing is that the same man, despite his unethical and illegal conduct, was awarded a Nobel Prize in 1992. It's worth noting that even Hitler received a Nobel Prize in 1938, highlighting the questioned nature of such accolades. Saving perhaps the most astonishing fact for last, it was revealed that Jacobson had impregnated a baboon that the hospital was using for experimental purposes. Such a revelation is beyond comprehension, and it raises disturbing questions about the extent of his actions. It's a level of misconduct that can only be described as reprehensible, due to the point where one might even use the term of baboon rapist to capture the shocking nature of his behavior. Now let's delve into the disturbing case of Harold Shipman. If you thought Michael Swango's 60 victims were shocking, Harold Shipman would likely scoff at that number. He claimed an astonishing 250 lives during a mere 17-year period. Shipman, a doctor from England, ranked as one of the most infamous serial killers in British history. His reign of terror was finally put to an end by a diligent detective who began to notice a horrifying pattern. Nearly all of Shipman's patients seemed to meet tragic ends. The majority of these patients were elderly women, a demographic that Shipman specifically targeted. However, the detective could never have fathomed the magnitude of what they would eventually uncover. Shipman was eventually apprehended and slated for trial, but the authorities should have taken extra precautions. During the period leading up to his trial, Shipman continued his murderous spree, claiming the lives of 4 more individuals within the sanctity of their own homes. As the trial unfolded, a litany of disturbing revelation came to light. Shipman had engaged in profoundly unethical actions during his tenure as a doctor. For instance, he forged wills of terminally ill patients, bequeathing their estates to himself. This heinous practice allowed him to amass a staggering fortune, nearly $1 million. In one particularly egregious case, Shipman manipulated the will of an elderly woman he had murdered, excluding her rightful beneficiaries and selfishly inserting his name instead, reaping over $600,000 from the deceit. Upon being discovered, Shipman was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole. However, he found a way to evade facing the consequences of his actions by taking his own life. In a final act of malevolence, he did so before authorities could seize the ill-gotten gains, which he promptly transferred to his wife, utilizing a legal loophole that shields inherited assets from reclamation. He ensured that the victims' families would never receive the rightful financial restitution they deserve, even in death. Shipman's managed to cast a long shadow of mystery over the lives of those who suffered due to his actions. Now, let's turn our attention to the infamous Conrad Murray. You're likely well acquainted with this doctor, as his case garnered significant notoriety. He was infamously found guilty in connection with the tragic death of the legendary Michael Jackson. Murray administered a faithful dose of 25 milligrams of propofol to Michael Jackson on the night of the pop icon's passing. In addition to propofol, he provided other medications to the superstar that were not inherently harmful. Murray had contended that Jackson insisted on receiving propofol, even though he was well aware of the potential risks. This raised a moral and ethical quandary. When a patient's desire are at odds with their best interest, how should a responsible doctor respond? Granting such requests, especially with the consequences can be dire, challenges the fundamental principle of medical ethics. Murray faced charges of manslaughter, a legal classification that denotes unintentional but culpable involvement in a person's death. He received the maximum sentence for manslaughter, which amounted to 4 years of incarceration. In reality, he served only 2 of those years. Furthermore, he faced the severe consequence of losing his medical license. Speculation surrounds the motivation behind Murray's actions, with some suggesting that he was driven by the desire to retain his lucrative position as Michael Jackson's personal physician, which yielded an annual income of $150,000. While this may appear to be an enticing sum, the medical profession demands unwavering dedication to a patient's welfare, and compromising a patient's life for personal gain is utterly unacceptable. Now let's delve into the case of Dr. Walter Freeman. While his actions may be familiar to some, it's essential to understand the man behind these disturbing practices. During World War II, a significant number of soldiers grappled with mental illnesses, and it was Dr. Walter Freeman who conceived what would come to be known as the lobotomy. Lobotomies are a medical procedure that persists to this day, but Dr. Freeman's method was particularly gruesome and ineffective. His approach involved inserting an ice pick into the eye socket of the patient, where it would damage a portion of their brain. His rationale was that rendering patients unable to speak or move would somehow mitigate their mental illnesses. It's perplexing how he considered leaving individuals in a paralyzed, vegetative state to be a superior alternative to battling mental health issues. In truth, enduring such a procedure is unimaginably painful, and the outcomes were far from the curative. The most distressing aspect of Dr. Freeman's legacy is the sheer scale of his action. He didn't experiment on a few test subjects, but performed these iSpeak lobotomies on over 2,000 veterans who had experienced mental health challenges following the World War II. The scale and cruelty in his endeavor are enough to send shivers down one's spine. Even now, the mere thought of someone inserting an iSpeak into the brain is enough to induce a headache. Now let's dive into the enigmatic and sinister tale of H.H. Holmes. Brace yourself, as this is a truly eerie and captivating story that could easily be mistaken for a Hollywood thriller. H.H. Holmes, a doctor by profession, was no ordinary serial killer. His malevolent actions took place in the state of Illinois, specifically in Chicago, United States. Holmes, with a considerable wealth at his disposal, embarked on a chilling endeavor. He acquired a vast hotel in Inglewood, aptly named the Murder Castle in hindsight. However, what transpired within the walls was far from ordinary. Within this malevolent establishment, Holmes meticulously redesigned the interior. He incorporated a bewildering array of doors leading to brick walls, seemingly pointless rooms devoid of any furnishing, bizarre hallways, staircases leading to nowhere, and doors that could only be unlocked from the outside. These sinister modifications were ingeniously designed to ensnare those who unwittingly checked into his hotel. Holmes would lure guests into his gruesome trap, charging them as if they were staying at a regular hotel. Once snared, he would carry out his atrocious acts of murder. But Holmes didn't stop there. He even employed staff, some of whom were also victims of his heinous crimes. The depths of his depravity knew no bounds. He went as far as to profit from insurance claims and manipulated the wills of his unfortunate victims. Holmes predominantly targeted young women, and this gruesome reign resulted in the deaths of over 200 individuals. It was only a matter of time before his reign of terror was exposed. An ill-fated attempt to extract $10,000 from an insurance company by faking his own demise marked the beginning of his downfall. This attempt led to a thorough investigation, uncovering the horrors within the infamous Murder Castle. Ironically, Holmes was ultimately sentenced to death. Yet this time, there would be no financial gain from his malevolence. Thank you for watching this video. If you found this content interesting, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more intriguing stories. If you'd like to explore more fascinating topics, click on the videos on your screen now. And remember, your feedback and comments are always welcome. See you in the next video.